Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guests today are Blake Nelson. He's the Vice President of Platforms and Cloud at SAIC, and Jason Payne, the Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft Federal. Good to have you both here. We are on the threshold of 2022, the year, if not the fiscal year, but at least the calendar year so far. Hopefully we'll have a fiscal 2022. But as you look across the landscape of federal agencies, and they are moving to the cloud continuously. This is an effort now that is ongoing. What do you see as the main rationales, the main reasons? Why are they doing cloud versus the way they were told to do it, say, 10 or 12 years ago when this whole movement got started? What's new here for 2022?
Hey,
Jason?
Tom, thanks for having me. I think, a lot of federal agencies initially are looking at cost savings when they move to the cloud. And, that's a big driver. But, once they get to the cloud, if depending on how they go or where their entry point is, whether they're doing cloud native development or they're doing lift and shift migrations, they realize there's, the cost savings just from an infrastructure perspective aren't the principal driver, right? Really, the innovation becomes the driver, the speed to mission that they find when they get into cloud, such as Microsoft Azure, where they can, that infrastructure cost, it may be a one-to-one relationship right away. They can use new services that are coming from these cloud providers that help reduce that type of cost. But what they really start to see is those costs pale in comparison to the speed that they can get from these new services out of cloud providers like Microsoft, where they can get to their mission faster, where they can provide these new services to the troops on the ground or to the citizen and get that information out faster, get these applications up and running at speed. That becomes the true driver. That flexibility and that innovation is really what I see after cost becomes the driver for them to move to the cloud.
And Jason, there's a big emphasis on cybersecurity coming from administration, from Congress, from pretty much events in the world itself, if truth be told. Is that also a growing as in importance as a driver?
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. I think we look at cybersecurity as one of the great forcing functions of cloud adoption, particularly over the last 20 months or so. Blake was talking about a lot of the innovation, the flexibility that cloud provides. But in light of the cyber executive order, the increase in ransomware attacks that we've been seeing this year, they're up over 50%. I think really what we're hearing now is a narrative that modernization is the path to security. And there's no better path to modernization and that security than through the cloud, right? The speed and scale at which, cloud service providers, such as Microsoft, secure those cloud footprints and provide services for customers to build their applications and host their workloads on. The security aspect is really just a clear differentiator and great forcing function for cloud to reap the benefits of the platforms.
And let's go more into that idea of speed, because speed seems to go with the general idea of short sprints for development, rapid iterations of units of modernization and innovation, as opposed to the old giant waterfall grand design that agencies, well, frankly, some of them still struggle with it, but they're getting away from that. So maybe go into a little bit more detail on how speed is enhanced with cloud and how it complements other developmental efforts that are also faster than years past.
Yeah, as the federal space adopts an agile mindset, that speed in the cloud becomes a lot more valuable. And, you see agencies looking at their data and they see all these new services and tools within the cloud, like Microsoft Azure around data and AI, for example. And they're going to be able to take that data very quickly within a matter of hours, maybe days, where it would take years before to take that data, put it in a place, get it structured in a way that now you can get answers out of that data. For example, you can put the new AI tools and the new machine learning concepts to that data and start to get pictures of your organization readiness, of your sailors and your airmen and women, for example, and see how does that impact those organizations, and then really make quick decisions on that. And the the ability to get there takes, sometimes literally only hours, where, just 5 to 10 years ago, that would take weeks, even months. And that's not even, I'm not even talking about the ATO process to get some of that stuff, ready to go. I'm talking, that's a whole nother 6 to 8 months away. But just to get that technology put in place, to point, these new services and innovative tools out of like Azure to your data, just to make one simple example, takes minutes and hours now, where it used to take weeks and months. And that's a huge differentiator to the mission of these civilian and federal and defense agencies.
And you mentioned ATO, and that's always a big stumbling block, in some cases, a big bugaboo for agencies that slows things down. But by having some kind of a certified process in the cloud, the ATO itself can also speed up. Fair to say?
I certainly think that's very fair, right? I think about the fact that, the cloud being a scalable software-defined platform, which you can inspect, you can certify its compliance on a regular basis, you can audit it. What we've really seen at Microsoft is an ability for government agencies to use the cloud, both its baseline accreditations, whether you're talking things about, FedRAMP or DoD impact levels, and then building upon those as accelerators to get to an eventual ATO, and then using the compliance tools within the cloud itself to maintain those ATOs, or to more quickly assume the controls needed to gain them. And so I think the speed, both on what you can do from a data and analytics and a visualization point of view, understanding how you can modernize your workloads, as well as, effectively get them to production operations faster through the ATO process. It's really two pillars of really speed levers that our customers can pull.
All right. And I want to move on to this issue of data and performance, because access, performance, it's all kind of interrelated. And in some sense, moving to the cloud, even if you're totally in the cloud, or you maintain a hybrid environment and you have your own agency data centers where an application instance might reside, and you have clouds, it still doesn't necessarily solve the distance, performance, caching, and whatever other effects there might be on end user experience. And so you hear more and more agencies talking about the edge and bringing edge computing. Old concept, but it's kind of getting into a new bottle too in the cold age, in the cloud age. So tell us about the cloud edge phenomenon. How is that taking shape technically?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most interesting things around the cloud, right? I mean, I don't think you can personally get to the edge without being cloud native, number one, right? It takes having that agile cloud mindset to have a framework to get out to that edge. In the defense world, it's the contested edge with zero or no comms. In a civilian world, think of FEMA going out to a disaster recovery zone, right? And you can take these services and tool sets from Azure and put those on devices at the edge, where you can push that compute and that storage out to a soldier, an airman or women. You can take that compute and put it on a vehicle and have those elements built in the cloud in an agile mindset, put that out to the edge to do a lot of the things that you would have to do previously with lots of horsepower behind you, either on-prem or from the cloud. And then taking those innovative networks like 5G, for example, and helping them become your backbone to transfer that data. But if you can take that compute and put it at the airman or woman's edge, or on that FEMA edge, the folks out there fighting those fires, working those disaster areas, and get that compute in that vehicle, that takes gives everybody a huge edge to be able to solve problems.
And how does the Kubernetes question and the containerization and the orchestration of all that play into this? Because I think we hear that too also as coming to the edge, or as an edge enabler. Jason?
Yeah, I think technologies like containers and Kubernetes are an interesting implementation for how we're seeing customers take advantage of cloud technologies at the edge. As Blake highlighted there, I think there's an inherent design and inherent need for compute capabilities to gracefully degrade, all the way from a hyperscale cloud like Azure, all the way down to maybe a small form factor device that someone might carry around in their hand or in their backpack, depending on the mission need at hand. And when we think about containerization technologies and the way that we can build applications, whether they be basic data entry applications that are necessary for field operations, or whether they're a highly advanced artificial intelligence algorithm or machine learning model that's trained on very, very large data sets in the cloud and then deployed as a container to some of these small form factor devices. The reality is that these are great portable technologies that we can use to then scale those workloads all the way from the cloud to edge devices. And so it's a great way forward for agencies to both look at, taking their workloads from an on-premises environment, providing a layer of abstraction, to have them be modernized both in the cloud and to edge devices. So here at Microsoft, we look at that as kind of one of our core strategies to really embrace our customers wherever they are as they deliver their mission around the globe. And the last piece I'd maybe tack onto that is, Blake mentioned some technologies like 5G. I think really what we see is, when it comes to these edge devices and running these containerized application workloads, they need to be enabled by global connectivity, and whether that's through things like 5G or whether that's through satellite communications with technologies such as Azure Orbital. This entire ecosystem of capabilities is really what makes this work for government agencies.
And something you said there made me ask this question. You can't really look at all edge workloads the same, because they do range from low power, low communications ability, low processing ability of IoT types of devices. There are also agencies deploying small form factors, but extremely powerful and intensive compute capability at the edge. So you really have a range of edge phenomena that you need to deal with, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything from, effectively an IoT device all the way through, what I would argue are semi-permanent, pieces of cloud capacity effectively deployed at the edge, right? And so everything within that spectrum is within the bounds of what agencies are demanding and what they need for mission delivery.
Yeah, and you think about it right now. I mean, everybody walking around has their own personal area network if you have a smartwatch and a phone on, right? And so you take that concept to that FEMA worker or that soldier at the edge, right? And you're adding new capability, new workloads into that device to do AI, ML, to help process that data, right? And then bring that data back to where it can have more horsepower in the cloud, but also do some good at the edge. Those are the things that these federal agencies are really trying to grasp. And you cannot do that without being in the cloud and having a cloud mindset.
Yeah, so then a good approach then for designing cloud native, cloud first, if you will, applications is to maybe begin with performance in mind and then incorporate the edge as something you're going to have and just proceed that way rather than kind of finding, geez, we need edge here that we don't have. And then it gets more expensive and slower.
Yeah, I think that's a fair description, and one of the devils in the details there would really be around, your data management strategy, right? As you were either collecting that data at the edge and then what do you do with it, really processing it and signaling some decision on that data is really the first step in the process, but there's an entire data lifecycle strategy that needs to occur after that. And so having that holistic mindset in mind really gives you an opportunity to look at how to architect an application to take advantage of both edge capabilities, global communications, as well as hyperscale cloud capabilities.
And then the demand curve that you're getting from users, you can manage dynamically, I suppose, at that point.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's a good note to take a break on. My guests today are Blake Nelson, the Vice President of Platforms and Cloud at SAIC, and Jason Payne, the Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft Federal. I'm Tom Temin. This discussion is Voices of Government IT, Accelerating the Path to Digital Government, sponsored by SAIC and Microsoft Federal here on Federal News Network.